we're going to go ahead and roll right into it. Quick start today. Let's see what they have to say.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live. I'm Jared, and this is the show they let me do for some reason. Joining us on the show this week, we have members from our esteemed, what are your teams called now? Because didn't we just do a big restructure? What do you have team names yet? Or are they still trying to work that down? Anyway, we got people from one of the kind of the FPS team, the shooty and the punchy and the player interaction-y team. So we don't know what their team name is yet. So we're just going to go straight to the people. We got Zach, Inez, and Jens. Zach, Inez, Jens. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. This is your first time in the spaceship, all of you, right?
Yeah, it looks
I've had a look around before, but this is the first time being filmed.
I can't believe you actually have it in space. That's the most impressive part.
Yeah.
Well, we're landed.
It's unexpected.
We're landed on Pyro 3 right now.
It's crazy. It's really nice in here. It's cushy.
They're good. They're comfortable.
But with the gravity on,
Yeah.
it's easier to sit down than it was earlier.
No Vandal have smashed into the spaceship yet, so
That's
I'm
true.
happy.
Effing nerds. All right. So.
You gotta compose yourself a lot for this one.
Well, there's usually a big period of time where I got to prep to get to do some Zen time and I get to focus and get ready for. I didn't get any of that today, so I was just under the desk, playing with wires a couple minutes ago. So Jens, Inez, and Zach are here. They were 3 of the 4 people. Francesco Riccucci from our Frankfurt office is unavailable to join us today, who presented life in the first person at CitizenCon. And we thought we'd bring them on the show and have them answer some follow-up questions that came from you, the Star Citizen citizens, which we collected on Spectrum throughout the week and let you guys vote up the questions. We let them pick the questions. I have not seen the questions. It's part of my normal prep and whatnot, but we let them pick the questions and I didn't do my job. So we're just going to jump right into it because we got Yogi waiting to do the second half here. So Jens, really this is going to be for anybody, but I'm just going to look at Jens when I say this. Some people are already calling the new radar and ping mechanics wall hacks. Can you tell, because you can tell can you tell us all of the upsides, the downsides, and the possible ways for people to remain undetected so that people would stop calling it that?
Okay, kind of guilty. I wouldn't say I guess we probably insinuated it's wall hacks. We talked about this on the podcast, me and Level Cap Gaming, and I felt like he had a good point about the fact that like when you scanned, you'd be able to track someone, all of their movements, and he mentioned the idea of instead leaving a ghost sort of like sonar ping almost effect to show where they are, but not necessarily every little action they're doing, which I thought was reasonable. But let's listen to what they have to say about why it is the way it is. What's up? How you doing, Berg? Welcome. Scott, good to see you. Supposit. There we go. See, our regular names are getting in here. It's slow. We're getting here.
Where to start? So definitely a concern internally too, right? So I would say visually very strong at the moment. Like if you ping someone, as you saw in the video, you see them and almost nothing else because it's such a strong visual. So definitely that needs tuning. There's a lot of work left to do on that. There's the time it takes to charge up the ping. There's whether you should be able to see through all types of occlusion. Can you have thicker walls, stuff like that to make encounters different. Then we're given tons of parameters for designers to tweak, like pierceability, range, signal noise ratio.
You notice he's saying something, and I feel like this is part of the difficulty of following Star Citizen is he's mentioning that what they've done is make the system that designers can now use to then build the game we're going to play, right? So he's basically saying, we built the sandbox, now the designers are meant to construct the sandcastle with it. So it's almost like he's kind of passing it on. He's like, well, it doesn't have to be like that, but it's going to be limited by those guys, so ask them. Feels kind of like it's obviously it's an answer, it's telling, but at the same time, it doesn't tell us how much different it'll be for us in the like overall, I do understand that sometimes you're not going to be able to scan some people and sometimes you are, but like how often is that, and how much is it going to block it? I think by default the whole Splinter Cell style thing makes a lot of sense to me, but I also am interested in seeing how this looks outside of just like the 30, maybe like 5 minutes of footage we've gotten of it so far from CitizenCon. I'd like to see another Inside Star Citizen on it.
My radar or my scanner better than your anti-scanner, whatever you want to call it. I think those are the kind of things we can do on the technical side, the engineering side to do it. But then at the end of the day, it's probably more Zach's side to sort of say like how will design use those tools to.
Yeah. So obviously we don't want to make it busted. That was a very strong version that we showed off. We said gameplay balancing in progress, I believe. But it's the case of like, how emissions tie into this, right? So for example, we have the idea of decoys and jammers potentially on a suit. Those could be, components inside suits that would essentially make your emissions much lower, maybe practically invisible. That's obviously going to be down to gameplay balance. And if you're in like a heavy armor, maybe you have heavy emissions. But there's always like there's a forward and back to this, right? So if you're light and you're invisible,
do something here,
and you scan, for example, a heavy, you should be able to see him in theory. But if there's a heavy, for example, and he scans you and you're in more of a suit with a much lower emission, or you're in a state with much lower emissions, you potentially might not come up. So there's so many things we can do to balance it, and we essentially showed it at its strongest, right? Yeah. Because when we communicate something out like that, we always want people to see how is that in its like almost maybe potentially your strongest state and things like that. So I mean, gameplay balance, all of that is in flux. It's tweakable. It's changeable. So obviously,
all right. I think what he's talking about here is something they introduced a few years ago at CitizenCon,
which is how much oxygen can I carry?
What's
the climate control in this system? What temperature can it survive? And temperature is something I'll be going on again further on. But again, then you look at, say, for example, the next layer is we go
back up
into and look at it like you're buying a new ship. And we want armor to be almost like your own personal ship when you're walking around the verse. We want absolute meaningful differences between that light, medium, and heavy armor class. And so where does that start? First off, it starts off by giving it all power. So you can have different power ratings. Then we have different signatures in terms of EM, in terms of IR that tie into FPS stealth. Then you've got inventory. Now inventory is, like you said, it's, you've got a physicalized backpack, but it goes more than that. That backpack's going to be modular. You'll be able to attach different sizes of backpack, and they will only go onto different pieces of armor. So you'll have to make meaningful choices. And then you've got life support, which is, how much oxygen can I carry? What's the climate control in this system? What temperature can it survive? And temperature is something I'll be going on again further on. But again, then you look at, say, for example, the next layer is subcomponents. Now, as I took through the weapons, you look at attachments. It allows you to further specialize or further diversify. That's what subcomponents are going to be. If you want to, put heavy armor on, but you want to add more armor plating, or you want, emission dampeners, or you want further utility and gadgets that we release in the future, that's where subcomponents come in. But really, that's just the armor classes themselves. That's the light, medium, and heavy armor classes.
All right, so,
and that's
what else he was going to talk to here about classes and playstyles is stuff they talked about at CitizenCon. It's funny how often this happens, right? But again, 4 years ago, they were talking about this at CitizenCon, very conceptual, just futures of FPS armor, sort of slides on a PowerPoint. And we're now seeing it translate into the game, and they're discussing it here in this Star Citizen Live with the idea that, like we're saying in chat, this sort of mechanic and the ceiling of scanning, so the fact that you can go from seeing absolutely nothing to seeing every single thing they're doing, right? It's not like you're going from absolutely nothing to seeing a shadow of them. There's all this space for designers to play with in terms of like, what kind of armor attachments can you get? What kind of maybe unique, like, this is where they can get the legendary armor to make sense, right? You go and you take out a pirate and you get that armor, and that armor has that permanent dampening effect because reasons. I don't know, because that pirate was really smart, whatever. So like on one hand, this opens up a lot more variability in terms of how our armor works. On the other hand, though, if it gives too much of an advantage, then everybody is automatically going to wear things that dampen scanning, which would kind of eliminate the point of it being an optional attachment. At the same time, it does make sense it's an optional attachment. I just really hope that the way that the game is built, the world is built and everything, that this doesn't become too much of a thing that we think about it or focus on it too much. I love the idea of it. You just don't want to have to spend all your time thinking about whether or not somebody is watching you through a wall or on their mini map or something. But I think, like we always say, these guys are building a game and they're going to focus on making sure that it's fun and it not a terrible experience for us. They've made other games before, not the studio, but like the people who are in the studio. I trust that they'll be able to hit a good midpoint once we get into testing.
We don't want an experience to be, PvP to be trivialized by anything like, radar becoming a crux, essentially, right? We're completely aware of that, and obviously, we're conscious of that. We play.
Case in point. By the way, I'm seeing in chat you guys are talking about like armor and how this is a lot of stuff to consider with armor, and obviously putting together your armor is not fun right now. That's one of those things in the game that's going to speed up a lot. The locker system, which I can pull up for you real quick here. See if we can get the roadmap. The locker system is an inventory update that's probably going to happen sometime in the next year, I would think. It really, it's kind of similar to the freight elevators in that it's physicalizing our city inventory. So you read it, it says it introduces a consistent way to store clothes, armor, and items in physicalized state. Also includes a more robust and tactile method of storing items on shelves and attachment surfaces. This builds on the personal inventory, expanding the inventory UI to include lockers. It also includes loadouts. So you'll be able to save a loadout of a specific suit, say your exploration suit. If you go to your suit locker in your ship, you would be able to have that whole loadout in that suit locker, go up to the suit locker, and equip all the stuff that you would need. So instead of dying and having to come back and grab your armor from here and your weapons from here and your med pens and all that stuff, you'd go to your suit locker and all of that stuff, boom, right on you. And they've tried to show this off, but they haven't done a very good job of it. But that is one of the ways that the game's going to speed up a lot and should help with stuff like this.
The game ourselves, and we wouldn't want that happening to players.
I think it's very. First of all, I don't think it should go without saying, but we always get new people every week, every month, every year. So it bears repeating that nothing you've ever seen, ever, on any ISC, SCL, CitizenCon, Pillar Talk, gosh, we've done so many shows with these, is ever final. Like we've never ever showcased anything that's final. That's not what we do. We are always showcasing our work in progress. We'll wait until it's presentable. We'll wait until it gives an almost complete picture of what we're trying to do. But we're not the people who wait until it's done to show it to you. We're not the people who wait until it's done to put it in the game for testing. Yeah. That's just not who we are at CIG. So it's always important to remember that whatever you're seeing, wherever you're seeing it, is always this work in progress. And for something like scanning and radar, it's much easier to take it all the way to the max and then prune it down like a tree. It's harder to add twigs and figs back to a tree after you've cut them down. So it's, you start with as big a tree of features as possible, and then you start pruning it down through the anti-scanner, which we're going to call that now. Everybody just go through. It's not Jammer anymore. It's anti-scanner.
I'm Swedish.
I
make words up. I love the English language because you make words up.
I'm not. I prefer it. Work. Yeah, no, I'm embracing it. I'm not making fun. So it's just much easier to bring it down and find all the ways to impact it and stuff.
I was going to mention one more thing. If you think of it from a PvP point of view, it's more like if you do a ping to find people, like Zach was saying, you might see people that have the right thing, but they will see you, right? So you're basically going it's like a taunt. I'm saying I'm gonna check if there's anyone here, but I also know probably everyone's not gonna know that.
See, but the thing,
so it's like
the thing about that is you're not seeing the same thing, right? They are gonna you ping and you see all of their movement. They're only going to see your position, and I don't think they've actually, maybe they haven't shown that effect, but I don't think it's going to show your position or what you do after the ping, right? It's literally just the sonar effect. So as soon as you feel somebody ping you, you might as well throw out a ping as well.
yeah, it's a bit of a tricky beast for PvP that I feel definitely tuned more towards PvE.
Yeah, I think anybody that's ever worked for any MMO in the world is going to tell you that PvP tuning is never done.
Yeah.
It's just this constant, ever-evolving, ever-changing beast.
That's a nice thing, right? Because if you really dislike such a, like radar and scanning, it's like, okay, you can put the armor on, which is heavily resistant to that. So you will be able to have the player expression that you want to be able to get the gameplay that you want to facilitate.
Next question. Let's see. Really excited for the IK-powered interactions with buttons and control panels. Any thoughts at this point for interactions that are out of the player's reach?
Yeah, so we didn't show any, but yeah, we do have a version that we're calling for now Bluetooth. And the naming is still
what was it called?
Bluetooth, but it's still naming is still
I don't
not
think we
like
can
that.
use
No,
that
I don't think so as well. I mean, I wanted like Luffy, like Rubber Man, like you could actually go and touch the buttons, but no. So the version we have is like the player will play an animation of interacting with his mobiGlas, and we have an animation on the screen as well, telling that he's interacting with the object, and then we trigger the interaction.
So someone in the chat said space 2 for the
No, well, I'm just going to go on record right now. If this thing ends up being called Startooth, I'm quitting. Following up on that then, are there going to be ship interaction animations when using a ship touchscreen? Are there going to be ship interaction animations when using a ship touchscreen MFDs, or is it only for physical buttons?
No. So we do have some physical interactions with some UI screens, like the
I can just imagine the Starlifter, like you you go to physically interact with the Starlifter button and your arm just keeps stretching up and up like like it's glitched, because those are like 6 feet away from the person sitting down. This is an interesting one.
For like the elevator panels. Mm-hmm. But anything like any more screens that are with more complex interactions, we are avoiding it. Like it's a bit hard to get the balance. Like we want to do some, search or like do certain operations in the screen. So having that doesn't really work very well. We talked about maybe having a pose on the player, having a bit with more connection. So maybe we actually see the player with the hands on the sides, not for ships, but other terminals and kiosks around the game. But all this is we're still discussing options. But no, at the moment we're not thinking of adding.
I would just quickly say that one thing for me that was important is that if you don't start putting the hand onto the UI, and it's quite like a high fidelity UI, then you start obscuring the UI. Yeah. Right. So that was quite, I always felt that would kind of lessen the sort of, you kind of want to bring the UI in focus, right? And you wouldn't use your screen space, and you want to see what's going on there. You want to see all the little interesting transitions and interactions. You don't want to see a big hand covering everything interesting happening. So.
That's an interesting point that I hadn't actually considered. Chris is always fond of saying you bring it to the point of realism, then you bring it back to the point of fun. It's like, yes, it might be realistic to reach out and obscure the full touchscreen every time you're trying to do it, but like I said, because we try to have as many diegetic, user interfaces as possible, that would make it fundamentally impossible to try to read half of it. So you do have to how do you balance that?
Yeah, quick little honestly, it feels like it feels like a quick Moby, Sorry guys, hold on.
Trick internally, or is it just on a case-by-case basis? That's too much, pull it back. That's not enough, do more.
Trial and error. I think, a lot of the time, I think the elevator ones we used in the video are a great example, because they're like a list, very large, but large, friendly buttons, I would say. They are perfect to press, right? Because that's all there is. And you go to something like the shopping kiosk and it's a lot going on. Yeah.
Sadly, my request of making everything the fist slam got turned down.
Fist slam is
Sorry guys, had to do a
it's like,
quick business call there.
Experience, right?
I think like a quick
the first time I saw it.
Moby screen would be pretty cool for this game.
They wouldn't let us do it on the toilets, because apparently it's too destructive and not delicate enough. You whack that handle, you're going to get a proper flush.
Says a lot, doesn't it?
They don't let me on here very often, I apologise.
Zach, do you know what the 3 seashells are?
3 seashells?
Yeah.
Ooh.
No.
Oh, the youngsters.
Pete's shaking his head over there.
They had this conversation at CIG so much. They're like, "Do you remember this movie from the '80s?" And I was like, "No, I wasn't alive." I'm employed to make all the directors feel old, I think.
Well, good job. All right, Jens, maybe this one's for you. I don't know. Is part of the FPS weapon rework also removing the automatic reload of the weapon? Is part of the FPS weapon rework also removing the automatic reload of the weapon and rather allowing the player the choice to reload the magazine, swap the weapon, or do neither and run away instead? So I think they're talking about that every time you try to reload, it's pulled out, but then it's automatically one. So they want to interrupt it like halfway?
I mean, it should be possible to interrupt it already, but it's definitely, like I said, like going through now we got a lot more features, going through them and increasing the interactivity is like really high on our list or our wish list, just to make everything feel smooth, and what you want to do is what you can do and you're in control of what's happening. Obviously, again, from the engineering side, there's challenging with, like, it's not always a very easy thing to implement systemically. A lot of the times you have to go into each type of feature and put in, like, where do you interrupt it? How do you queue it? How do you sort of not, if you've queued it and then you decided to do something else while it was queued, do you then unqueue it? You know, all these things, like, you know, I was jumping, then I land. Should I reload because I press reload while I was jumping? And in the middle of the sort of heavy land animation or something. So yeah, it's not as easy as perhaps design would like it to be, because you know, they like to give us a big spreadsheet and like, make this.
That's something we're working on at the moment. It's called the action matrix.
Wait,
so essentially, this thing
is that a big thing to not reload when the gun finishes? I mean, I get wanting the choice. I'm just wondering. I imagine that's the thing in Tarkov. As far as FPS gameplay, though, how valuable is something like that to be able to do?
Basically supposed to make Star Citizen extremely fluid, like you'd expect. Like, if you're doing actions, they have the intended result of what you think. So when you're playing a game, if you have to think about something, that usually means there's not the level of fluidity you'd expect, right? So for example, with our slide, if you switch weapon during the slide.
Yes.
Like if you press 1, as soon as you go into the slide, the expectation of you would be, as soon as I regain control of my character, I switch weapon. And that's something that we have to manually put in, because we have to basically author and dictate which actions can go into which other actions. So the whole idea of the action matrix work is essentially
this is great. I might make a video on this. I bet we're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff in sprint reports. This is solving one of, in my opinion, all right, so, you know, star map, okay? You can't forget about star map. Worst thing that we have to deal with. But I think pretty high up there is just interacting with stuff feels janky. It's just from like picking up weapons to grabbing looting bodies, everything feels like very disjointed kind of, and you can tell they have good animations, but like the way they connect feels so jerky. And the idea that and I think a lot of that is the server. I don't think it's just these guys' work, but the fact that they've got like a full-on tool that they're building to flesh all of this out and make it all kind of fluid is it reminds me of, again, the Squadron 42 trailer and the sort of polish that we saw there, and the realization that this what we've been playing has not been very good compared to what they want to put out there. Thank God.
A designer can go in and say, well, if I'm reloading and I want to be able to cancel out of it, I should be able to. And obviously that's something that, you know, we've specifically talked about a lot. We've heard it requested a lot as well. And it is something that we are planning on doing. Obviously that being the biggest example of how the action matrix will come in handy. So hopefully once the action matrix work is done, you'll have this very fluid experience that you expect in most contemporary FPSs.
Yeah. And it'll never be done.
Yeah.
They'll be like, we'll get the matrix, we'll implement it the way it is, and then someone tweaks it, we'll reiterate on it, and they go, and it's back and forth, sit and play it.
Yeah, because it's also the case.
Playing more.
when can you exit out of stuff, right, as well? It's
Yeah.
like, for example, if you med pen, right, when you go douche like that, as soon as you pull out, is that when we give control?
Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot more like layers and depth that we can go into it. You know, how much expression do we allow of fluidity versus how much do we control and punish an action? So if you med pen, that's obviously quite, you know, a defensive action. You're getting your health back. You know, should we allow you to break early out of that? Does that allow skill expression by breaking out early? And, you know, there's all these fun design questions that we can propose and easily put in now. Well,
You know what I'd actually love to hear now that he brought up a med pen animation? I'm like, okay, can you guys tell me about plans for animations for advanced medical gameplay? I think everybody wants to know. Because that's one of the only things, I don't think we have a design document about that actually. Let's double check real quick. Star Citizen medical design document. What do you got for us? Oh, look at that. They literally have one. All right, I'm an idiot. Sorry. Let's see. So yeah, that's right. They brought this out when they brought out the first gameplay. 2018. This isn't that old. In terms of medical gameplay, we've got our injury types, yes. We've got our mission types, of course. We already know that. Respawning and differences between medical ships. But this doesn't really look like it goes into... Yeah, this is not advanced medical gameplay. So we don't know how deep they want to go, right? Do they want to have people manually splinting a broken leg? Or do they want to make us have to inject drugs into certain areas on the body based on what's going on? Like how far are you going to push it? Because we've seen how far they want to push something like salvage. Salvage, you literally can go into a spaceship and blow open a hole and pull out the power drive, put it in your ship, and use it for yourself if you want. So like, what you going to do with medical? Because that's pretty important too, and we know they've got big plans. Would love to hear from these folks how that would play in, but I don't think they're going to get into that.
Can you please allow us to do that?
Yeah, and we'll try. We try. We always try.
So the nickel version of that answer is we're working on a thing, we're referring to it as the action matrix.
Yes.
It'll probably be called the Star Action Matrix by the
Yes.
time it's released. We're so good at naming things.
I just realized what I should call the teams.
What?
Star teams. It's done.
And obviously when it comes closer to fruition and being implemented in the PU, we'll almost certainly do a segment on it in ISC and whatnot.
Yes.
I want to address a question in chat. Tico Rico says, will we have SATA ball soon? Please say yes. No.
Ooh!
I see this pop up every once in a while. I'm always very confused about it because SATA ball was a thing that allowed us to test zero-G mechanics when we didn't have the PU. It was a 2015 thing that was being developed back with our partners at Alphonic at the time because, you know, we didn't know when the PU was going to come online and we wanted to get some zero-G testing. Once the PU came online, there was no real reason for SATA ball anymore because we could just do all our zero-G testing there in the PU. So
I don't think Jared means what he's saying there when he says there was no real reason. Because I think there's a very good reason for players to be able to play SATA ball. And that's because it sounds fucking fun. I never got to freaking try it. But apparently, from what I understand, it's kind of like Ender's Game. It's like Ender's Game, but in Star Citizen, which sounds amazing to me. Like, imagine if we could do something like that. With the new EVA system, everybody gets a tractor beam, and then everybody gets tasers. And they basically just set up the same thing. But this is the first game that we've really been able to set that up, right? If CIG doesn't do it, somebody's going to do it. I think we're going to get moddable Arena Commander private servers at some point. That's what I'm banking on as being their sort of approach to modding and custom games and stuff. So I imagine somebody eventually will make it in Arena Commander, but like this would be such a great thing to be able to play when you're in quantum travel, get in your sim pod, play some SATA ball with some friends or with some randos. Like, it doesn't matter. It's low intensity. You're not killing folks. Man, it's like Griffball in Halo.
So I'm surprised in the year 2023 this question still comes up, but it comes up enough times that every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I should really address that and whatever. And so Rico, Pico, or whatever the heck your name was, you're the one who got lucky drawn right there. Let's see, what else do we got? Can we expect, another IK button. Can we expect to see IK button interactions on things like shop kiosks? I think it'd be really neat to see others do it, but might be obstructive to your own view possibly. Well, this person was pressing it. So yeah.
Yeah, we kind of already touched that.
Yeah,
So yeah, no.
Good job, whoever sent that question. I didn't get the name on that one. You were right. It would be obstructive. Will the looting screen? It's the end of the week.
It's a screen.
Will the looting screen be extended to armor and undersuits at some point?
Yes.
Oh.
It will. We're working on it. So yeah, PU version will have armor and clothing. Basically, we'll have two views. So
wait, that's great. I didn't think about that. I thought, because in the monthly report when they mentioned this feature, they just said that it was going to be for like quick items, your med pens, your weapons, your grenades and stuff, like a literal looting screen. But clothing and, oh man, we're going to be able to change stuff so quickly. That's crazy. So you don't have to physically interact with clothing to put it on then, in that case.
we have the main view, which will be very similar to what we show at CitizenCon. And then the secondary view that the player can go to by using a keybind, a shortcut, then will bring up the either clothing or armor, depending on the context, and all the similar operations we currently have for the other ones. Yep.
I remember that the looting screen was on screen for all of about 3 seconds at CitizenCon, and the chat was like,
oh my god, and it was so hype. It's such a great change to the game. I can't get over the fact, and it's so nice that we're staying in first person and they're not doing that third person inventory thing for it.
where's armor? Where's clothes? Where's armor? It's like that. So I was like,
Yeah, I think like our main concern now at the moment, like, it's very clean because for Squadron we have a very controlled limit of items that a player can carry. PU can go wild with the
yes.
heavy armor, so I think we are in talks with the UI and user experience teams to try to balance it out, get the best experience, but try not to clutter as much. So.
We touched on it with the UI team. We had the UI team on last week, but it bears repeating here because not everybody can watch everything that we do. These Squadron 42 technologies, these UIs, these features and whatever, they're not just brought over to Star Citizen by checking the multiplayer box and it going. A lot of these things have to be reshaped and reformed to work with the persistent universe. With a persistent universe that's continuously evolving, like when they were first developed for Squadron, they might have included the way the PU was working then. And then, but as they, it's always this thing of them diverging and then bringing them back, and then diverging and then bringing them back. We're in the process of bringing them back right now. So those adjustments are what's going to take some time, and why we can't say that this will be out in January or what's the February.
I mean, you can.
It's also the one thing I think of when I see that question is always like. So for me, you have the two screens, right? So you have the first-person screen, the loot screen. That's all about like I'm in the middle of combat. I need some ammo. I need some grenades. And I got the big screen where I'm a paper doll. I'm in the middle. I can dress myself. I can move things between bags. I can have my here's a bag with all the helmets I've collected. Here's one with my favorite knickknacks and whatever. And it's funny when you say that the first people ask is where's armor. It's like they're in the middle of combat. Like I need a quick way to completely change my outfit.
Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry.
Because this encounter will not go well unless I'm wearing that pink helmet.
It is the screen as well. It is game changer. It is so nice. It works as you'd expect, and it's just fantastic to use.
Yeah, I think if you get it for the weapons, even if you don't get armors, it's such a win.
When you're panicking, you need to grab a med pen. You just have that it's that fluidity, right? It's like you've gone in, you grab the thing, it's done what you'd expected, and it's like, yes, I'm in the zone.
Bacon of War following along with Saddlebugs. He's going to show this to all the Necrode features. How is Grabby Hands doing? Grabby Hands isn't in development anymore either. We surpassed that with our interaction system years ago. So that's one of those things. When we do weekly, recurring, a docu-series behind the scenes every single week of a game that's in development, you're going to see things that we try. And some things that we try work and some things that we try don't.
All right. Sorry, folks. As I said, my parents are flying out, so I had to go say bye to them real quick. I don't know what I missed. Do I need to go back and talk about that, or are we good? What was it? What was it called? What was he doing? What were they talking about? I'll let it keep going, and if I need to go back, we will.
You're going to see things that we try. And some things that we try work, and some things we try don't. Grabby hands didn't work. We've since that we got the whole player interaction system since then. So, I'm assuming that was a genuine question, and not somebody trolling me, so I answered it. Here's one. All right. So they were the second they saw the inventory, they were asking for armor. FPS compass? Ships have one. Why can't that be something in the FPS HUD?
Well, I have something I printed this especially. I don't know if we get zoom. I have to go to the camera.
We don't have a zoom yet.
Yeah,
They were letting us know that grabby hands isn't a thing anymore. So it's just going to be the zero-G interaction that uses the hand system, but we're not going to be actually grabbing things anymore. That's interesting. But we do grab some things, right? Like cups and weapons and things. So I'm guessing they mean grabby hands for anything in the world is the idea. Maybe I should go back and listen to that. How far back was that?
Even if you don't get
Oh, yeah.
armors, it's such a win.
when you're right,
You're going to show this to all the Necrode features. How is Grabby Hands doing? Grabby Hands isn't in development anymore either. We surpassed that with our interaction system years ago.
Oh.
So that's one of those things when we do weekly.
Okay, that's literally it.
And we showed it. It's
All right, let's listen to this then.
Person talk.
something in the FPS HUD.
Well, I have something I printed this especially. I don't know if we get zoom. I have to go to the camera.
We don't have a zoom yet.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the UI talk or the life in first person talk, you will see that there is an FPS compass. So you can go watch our panel or the UI panel, and it's here. So I've for the people who missed it, I've drawn a big red box and an arrow for you as well. So yes, we do have an FPS compass.
This guy is an arrow amateur. It's supposed to be filled in. Sometimes a slight curve to it can really help. You know how people are. I don't know.
So yes, we do have an FPS compass.
And we showed it at CitizenCon.
And we might need to make it bigger.
Yeah,
Feedback.
I feel like I've seen an FPS compass in these things quite a few times. That's an interesting question.
Well, yeah,
Thanks for that.
it happens. We're having a laugh, but we showed a lot.
Yes.
At CitizenCon.
Yes.
It's not. It's not completely unreasonable that something got missed.
Of course.
Across 8 hours, 2 8-hour days and whatnot. So
It's a lot of cool stuff.
The only reason why I did that was because that was the second most voted post on there, and I was like, "Come on, guys! Like, if you're on the thread for the panel of which one we showed all this stuff," and I was like,
Wait, why was that the second most upvoted question? Hold on, I need to see this now. I have to see what happens. Star Citizen, what is it? Life in first person? No, that's 2 years ago, right? That's last year's, I think. Oh no, it is this year's. Cool. All right, let's see. Is this it?
Okay, big reveal.
It's literally the compass in the first minute. What? Are you serious? That's the first view that we get from the HUD in the whole thing. How is this the... That's so strange that was the second most upvoted question. Why? Oh, that's a funny one. Sure. Why not?
But of course, people miss.
it was a long day with a lot of stuff, and not everybody has time to sit there and watch. And a lot of people, they instead choose to watch a little summary thing. That they watch a YouTuber summary or a streamer somewhere, and things get missed. I mean, it's just physics.
Yeah. Obviously, when you're a developer and you're having lots of meetings about compasses and stuff as well, you're so invested about it, and when you finally get out, you're like, yes, and someone's like, where's that thing? It's like, oh, we had like a 2-hour meeting about this.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not complaining about anything, and not everybody has all the time to do this.
Supposit in chat. Maybe they meant an actual physical compass.
Stuff are invaluable to getting the message out, but physics is simply if you take an hour-long thing and cut it down to 8 minutes, something gets missed.
Yeah.
So it happens.
That's why we're here, right? Remember we were going over the video and somebody said we were digging too deep into it? That's why we're here. We don't miss those things. I think actually we might miss those things sometimes.
Wow. We're just hitting the big ones. Okay. We went from armor to FPS radar to night vision. Are there different types of
Wait for it. You're going to have to talk to the rendering team to get the full answer on this. Let's see.
vision something you are working on right now? They will ask this question of every team. They'll ask it of the UI team. They'll ask it of the graphics team. They'll ask it of the FPS team. They're just hoping anybody has
Somebody
anything
help.
to say ever.
So-
give us something, Zach.
So
Something.
when
Just say yes.
obviously when
Just say yes.
we've got
do it.
we've got our new scopes, and that is a good step in that direction. We've been talking to graphics about it, and using the filter stuff that we have now, it is possible, and it is something we can look into, and potentially. So no confirmations from us yet, but we've had those conversations. We're talking about it, and we need to figure out how we can do it, and where we do it, and where we put on, and how it looks, and so on and so forth. But
I just like that's like in voice, the answer was basically we have the things to do it. We just have to get around to it. But if you were to take all of that and put it down on like a paragraph of text and read it back, it'd probably be so funny because it was just like, I mean, it is there and it's possible, and maybe we'll talk about thinking about it, and it is something that it's like, just give it to us. But no, I don't actually. I want to say I don't care that much, but I really actually do. I hate flying at night. Yeah, no, that would be great. And somebody in chat said just install Reshade. My friend, as somebody who used to do photography in this game and tried to keep up with the versions of Reshade and make sure they were installed correctly so that the depth marker worked on like there's just too much. Telling somebody to install a third-party solution for super important thing is just it's never going to work. But yeah, the answer was, the question was worth a shot. The answer is, as always, like, they're clearly working towards it. It's getting there. Like he said, the scopes just happened. The rendering team just got Gen 12 going. Vulkan is coming online. So, like, I'm sure it'll be something that's not super far away. I can't wait.
Seen in the ATSCAV sniper rifle during the talk, how there is like a tin, for example, on the sniper scope, and things like that are the sort of things that we're looking into, and having scopes with potentially like different shadings depending on manufacturers and things like that. So to slightly dance around the question, yes,
Just do it. Just make the night vision.
it's up to graphics, not me.
No, don't. Stop.
When I mentioned it to Ali, he ran away.
Just do it.
He was scared.
Wait, what did he just say? Hold on, what did he say? Can you get captions?
Vision.
It's up to graphics, not me.
Oh, there it is. What? We got him.
No, don't. Stop.
When I mentioned it to Ali, he ran away.
Just do it.
He was scared.
We're tired.
Soon. Yeah.
You get nothing out of me.
It's like I feel like this is probably how the ship team views the Endeavor. None of them want to deal with it. Go ask one of them, please. Ask the team in charge of modularity. Oh, ask the team in charge of farming. Ask whoever came up with the idea of science. Oh God, this game is hard to make.
Speaking of things that we're gonna necro all kinds of topics here. Are the wide variety of FPS gadgets still in the works? Things like breaching charges, EMP, gravity, radar scatter, decoy grenades, placeable shields, repelling wire, jump packs, gliding packs. I don't know what gliding packs. Okay, like wingsuits, I guess. Maybe. What can you tell us? Anything about personal gadgetry?
Yes.
To mess shit up.
We're still working on those. Stuff like deployable shields. You've seen some laser trip mines. I believe they're on the PU now, and that's an example of a gadget that should hopefully be coming to the player. Some also more contemporary FPS things like flashbangs, smoke grenades, things you'd expect. The idea is we want to nail the core.
Totally just showed you guys a little teaser of the podcast. Love it when your file structure opens up on the stream you're screening, right? Your stream you're screening. I'm going to stick with that one. Let me show you guys. I think I only know of maybe 1 or 2 gadgets that they've shown us before. We got this boy. This is the breaching charge, something that they wanted to allow us to attach to doors, and it would blow a hole in the door. I think this is probably also going to be related to salvage charges. They could probably do them in the same way, but this will be a way that we can blow into ships, blow through doors, destroy that tank that's very annoying. We've also got, this is a manual door opener. So this is like a less violent way, I guess, of breaching a door. If you're out of power, perhaps, if you've lost power because systems are down and you don't want to pump the door with your hand, you put this on it. Just slap it in the middle there, and it extends the door automatically, and then you can fit right through. But I believe these are the only... Hey! Random developer. Sometimes when I save these clips, they just have like the face of a developer at the beginning or end. It's a nice little Easter egg. I'm sure they love that whenever it shows up on these videos. But I think that's all I had in terms of, yeah, I just have like mining gadgets after that. There's not too much that they've shown on this, but they have talked about it. I think there's also maybe a, let me see. Sorry, I promise I'm not mad at my keyboard. We've seen pictures of this stuff too. I don't see any of it popping up here, so I won't spend too much time on it. But yeah, deployable stuff is definitely like gadgets and all that kind of jazz is stuff they want to do. So I imagine they've got a lot of plans for it. And if you were watching the live stream I did at CitizenCon with Morphologist, you probably also saw that they have like more and more boxes, like kits. You know how you'd have like a kit in Battlefield? If you were a medic, you'd have like a medic kit. If you were a support, you'd have like an ammo pack. They're building those out for this game. They actually already have the medical one in... I think it was in the preview channel. I'm not sure if it's in the game yet. And then when me and Morph were there, I think we saw them building out a multi-tool pack. So it came with like, it could carry all your attachments, your multi-tool, a battery. Like they're building these little boxes that you can tell are going to be deployables and little gadgets and things that you can share with other people. So I bet that's, you know, part of this stuff that they're working on. Really cool stuff. The game's starting to feel a lot more like a game, given the stuff they're working on now.
Or FPS experience before we move on to crazy sci-fi gadgets. So once we've got that stuff, it's nailed in, it's looking great, then we can move on to more crazy space things. So black hole grenade or anything crazy.
Sure.
You got to wait for that.
If I get a black hole grenade before I get night vision, I know where you sit.
Why are you so obsessed with night vision? Like specifically night vision?
I'm tired of getting asked about it.
Yeah, like, dude, you at some point, enough people ask you about a feature that you're like, please CIG, talk about this feature, please God, please talk about this feature. That was server meshing this year, which I guess it's server meshing every year.
Okay. But what about if I could give you either subtle or night vision? Which one would you have?
Night vision.
Okay, it's good to know.
Jared's tired.
Jared wants the night vision and the starlight.
Go for you, Jared. Here we go. I'll see what I can do.
Let's talk about pouches. There's a segue.
Ooh.
I'm a child of the 90s comics era. I love pouches. One presentation showed off pouches we can attach to our gear to add additional storage space. Another presentation showed a more limited inventory window made for easy looting. Will the two systems work together, or are pouches already being phased out in favor of a streamlined Squadron 42 inventory system?
Wait, what?
There will be pouches.
Hold up. Are they asking if the system that they showed at CitizenCon is being phased out? Did I hear that right?
Additional storage space. Another presentation showed a presentation showed off pouches. I'm a child of the 90s comics era. I love pouches. One presentation showed off pouches we can attach to our gear to add additional storage space. Another presentation showed a more limited inventory window made for easy looting. Will the two systems work together, or are pouches already being phased out in favor of a streamlined Squadron 42 inventory system?
What's with these questions? Why would they phase out something they showed on the same day?
There will be pouches.
There will be pouches.
They are in concept. They will work with the inventory we're showing. There's some concepts to be on the looting as well, and that's all I know. But yeah.
Because I'm not full on like whenever time I play a video game that has comic characters, I always got to use those 90s versions of the characters that have all the pouches, like the Spider-Man, Scarlet Spider that's got the pouches on his ankle.
For anybody who didn't see this, let me show you real quick what they're talking about. This is like a little modular inventory system. And basically it's a system of small bags. They're backpacks that are small, like we already have backpacks. So these are just able to be attached to different parts of your body. These are... I believe this is actually part of them introducing backpacks. Let's see if I can find this shot. Backpacks over clothing. So if you look at like shots like this, you can see she's got a couple of these packs on her back. I can't tell if it's a full backpack, but it's definitely back storage. So this is a nice addition to the game, and it's obviously an inventory system. See, yeah, you can attach them to different parts of your body. I just don't understand why they would have gotten rid of it after they just introduced it.
We talked about ammunition. We talked about the reloading, the ability to interrupt, the ability to stop like that. What about magazine repacking? Having multiple magazines with only a few rounds is quite annoying.
Ooh, do you want to talk about this?
I mean, I think Ash on the looting screen, we actually showed a little bit of this.
We did, yeah. So it's probably a bit quick. It hasn't been balanced at the moment. So we call it the ammo repooling. But yeah, so the player can trigger for the different magazines using the looting screen, but the player can also trigger it outside of the looting screen. So if he's holding a weapon, and you can trigger the ammo repooling using the same key binding for the looting, and that will trigger the repacking for the magazine that we're currently holding. But yeah, we're still balancing it at the moment. It's really quick, so there's really no consequence of using it. But yeah.
Okay, so she's saying, she said the magazine you're holding. I think this is actually a really key detail for a lot of people. When they talk about ammo repooling, does she mean that you have to manually fill up the magazine you're holding? Are they talking about the idea that you have shot half a magazine, and if you reload, as the way that Star Citizen works right now, if you shoot half your magazine and you reload, instead of filling that magazine back up, it stores that magazine and pulls a new one out. So once you get to the end of all of your ammo, you're pulling out a half-filled magazine, and you are gonna have to use half your bullets, which can catch you off guard. Basically what they're saying is, if you grab half a magazine, you can now fill it up manually. Not bullet by bullet, but fill it up by pressing a button, rather than having a half a magazine. Am I getting that right?
Almost at time. I think we would squeeze in one or two more, though. I want to talk about the slide mechanic. That was another one that set Twitch chat on fire during that stream. With the slide mechanic, how do you intend to mitigate hitbox abuse by rapidly crouching or uncrouching? Will this be done with inverse kinematics and inertia, making the player take some time to stand back up?
I mean, I can only talk about, like, if I flip the question and talk about the second half, I would say, like, I love procedural animations. It's one of the things I really enjoy about gameplay. Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't? I definitely like it more than night vision, for sure. Inverse kinematics, like we're using for the buttons, like anything that makes you feel like your character is actually touching the world. It sort of grounds them into the world so much more than an animation that sort of ends up like halfway between the intended target and where it should be. Or having to offer a unique animation for every situation or every metric you might have. And in general, trying not to sort of force people into very specific metrics. These are all super important to me, so I can go on a long time. And then the other part of that was the inertialization. So that inertialized blending is something that I'm also really, really keen on, and we're definitely going to be exploring, because I think it will allow us to blend between a situation without traditional transition animations, and we can use the inertialization as ways to tweak the timings, like Zach was talking about. Like, do we punish you because you like just did like 3 slides in a row and your stamina is like, your heart is like mega pounding. It's going to take it'll be like, it's about me standing up, like old man standing up, instead of Zach, young man, like he'll be up jumping on your desk before I even got out of the seat, right? So that side of the question, that's 100%. Yeah, the whole animation side, I'm super excited about, super keen to get a lot of that stuff in to the game.
Just while we're on the topic of sliding.
On the design of Zach. Yeah, you go.
While we're on the topic of sliding,
me.
Obviously the sliding has a high stamina cost. The more you slide, the stamina cost is tied to the aiming idle sway as well. So while you're aiming, if you're exhausted, it's worse as well. And you can't fire immediately as you get into a slide. So we're treating it as more of a get into cover tactic than it is an aggressive tactic. So we're wary of how arcadey sliding is, but we're also conscious of the fact that we want it to be a function that exists for more getting into cover currently. That's the intention of sliding.
I like that. I do appreciate that distinction, and that's why I like these clarification talks. Stamina in this game, I guess like the rest of the game, I feel like doesn't actually work how it's meant to, because there's so many things that we're going to have to care about, I guess, when it comes to stamina, like the status of your character based on the character status, the actor system, your injuries, all that stuff. But like, as it is right now, I mean, you guys watch how I play. I just run and jump everywhere. And that's not how I plan on playing this game, but that's how it allows me to. And I feel like sliding probably is going to fall into that category of like, I want to feel much more limited on that. I want the game to make me feel like I am screwing myself over by sliding multiple times. I'm guessing it'll do that well, as they're saying here, but that was my angle on it when I talked with Level Cap about that on the podcast. I'm into sliding. I think it looked really cool and kind of like fun, impactful. It looked exhilarating, but it also, I would really like to see it balanced to not be something that can be used too much. Any little bump will bump you up, and you just gotta wait till you come back down. Oh, and low gravity. Sliding in low gravity would be funny. Sliding on the side of a spaceship. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of fun, interesting situations doing FPS and 0G or mixed gravity situations.
I mean, it's a slippery slope from sliding, then you end up skiing, then you end up with spin fusers, and then everybody's shouting Shazbot.
If you want to set them off, you say dolphin diving.
Oh. Oh.
I don't know what that means. So I'm not... All right, last question. Do you have any more information to share regarding time to kill?
Yes. So you'll have noticed how it's now in the PU, I believe. We've done some balancing, and the health has. There's been tweaking of the overall combat experience at the minute. That is essentially step one of the further work we're doing.
I feel like we've noticed that, right? You guys remember? I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe, when we did that retrieve consignment mission. It was me and a few guys, and we all had injuries by the end of it. We were getting shot and downed and like brought back up, and it was just like very intense. Yeah, they're making some changes. I like it.
So the new AI has gone in, and you take more shots than you did previously. And if you're in PvP, you currently take more shots than you did previously. And this is an overall step forward to the balance that we talked about in the Life in First Person talk, where we want to increase the TTK and make an experience which is, fair and engaging in both PvE and PvP environments. Because obviously there's been a lot of talk of frustration of, Star Citizen's, like, it's a lot of prep work, right? It's before you fly down to a planet, before you fly down to a bunker, then, if you just walk out your ship and there's a guy hiding in a corner with an assault rifle and he beams you down, you've lost all that time. It doesn't feel overall fair. So we've done some changes and we're going to continue working on. This is the literal first iteration that has gone in, and it's something we'll be iterating patch to patch, receiving feedback. This feels too long, this feels too short, this is unfair, even tying into like the injuries as well, right? Anyone who's done a lot of bunkers will have noticed a lot of they're getting a lot more injuries now, for example. So obviously, we take the point of realism, bring it back to fun, right? So the cost offset of increased health is that you get more injuries. So you are, you not punished, but for engaging there is a consequence.
I freaking love it. I absolutely love it. I hate going back to a space station to get rid of an injury that's making me hard to play my game, but that's why I like it. The fact that I hate that makes me think about bringing another ship or bringing a person who has a ship that can heal that. And hopefully at some point when they allow for attachments, maybe some really hefty medical tool that takes a ton of power and it's not very easy to use that maybe can heal injuries, then I would want to bring somebody with that along. But like, I love that this stuff makes me strategize, and the medical part is a big thing. I'll probably do a video on at some point on it, because the damage you take is weighted. Obviously that happens in a lot of FPS games, but if you get shot in the arm, it's not the same as getting shot in the chest. And then when you take into account the types of armors that they're allowing us to have, and then the injury system, obviously there's a lot of variability in how your body can be sustained in this game with this medical system. So I hope they go into further detail with this, because time to kill is super important, and understanding how that works is even more so.
And it's not, the consequence isn't death now. Here is basically a injuries, medical system, medical gameplay, giving that more purpose, life, breadth, depth.
I was going to say, because any work on time to kill has to naturally include work on medical gameplay.
Yeah, medical gameplay.
You can't do those
in
a silo.
Yeah, it's a sparrowfish, right? It's one of those things where it's like we don't just go in and tweak a number. We have to think of all the other cascading consequences and effects of all those things. But overall, the feedback has been quite positive. I've been annoying some Twitch streamers. I've been, annoying people on Reddit. Say, how do you feel about that? How's that going? Reading Spectrum and just getting an overall idea of what people think about it, how they feel about the current direction, because it's a very contentious issue when people talk about health, because it's always one of those things where, in-game play, it's such a big thing that everyone has preferences as well, which obviously plays into it. And it's one of those things where we take a wide variety of feedback and we want to get somewhere where we can land that the community's happy, everyone's happy, and it plays really good.
And this is so much more than just health. Health is just one aspect of
Yeah.
this overall time to kill. Shields, armor, injury,
armor,
medical gameplay, all these things.
And we're obviously all very conscious of that. And we're giving it to you now, and then you can give us feedback. And I think that's a good direction for us.
Yeah, it's this is super important because of death of a spaceman. So really gotta be wary of that too.